Well, tonight we are preparing a buttermilk pie that is going to absolutely melt in your mouth. And if you haven't had one before, you're gonna want it. And so stay tuned so you can find out how quickly you can put it together and have it in your oven and ready for your family's dessert tonight. Hello, I'm Leona Dooley, and this is Ebony, Ivy, and Time. And this is where we work hard, we love God and family, and we know without a doubt that everything else is just gravy. Tonight, we are going to be preparing a dessert. Yes, dessert. And so I would love for you to come and be right here. I've got your plate ready. Grab your fork and let's get ready to eat. Now, before we do that, make sure that you have gone down in the box below. You've checked the subscribe button. You've also given the video a thumbs up, and you have rang the bell, because then you'll know every time I upload something to the channel. Now, is your family worthy of a good dessert? And if so, let's get to it. I am really on the ball tonight because I have everything set up and ready to go for our dessert. And you know what? It's not often that I prepare pies. Like I said, it's one of those things that I love, but I don't. I only do it pretty much for holidays. But today I thought, well, we deserve a little something extra, so that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, I have my large mixing bowl before me, and we're just going to add literally everything into the mixing bowl. We're going to need 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. So I'm going to scoop that out. I'm going to get a knife so that I can accurately measure it and make sure that I don't have too much. And so as you see, there's our 1, our 2, and our 3. Now, the recipe is down at the bottom, so that just in case I miss something or I misquote something, you will have it down at the bottom to just be able to print. And so anyway, we've taken care of the flour. That's all the flour in it. Now, I have not tried it with a different type of flour, like almond flour, coconut flour, or whatever. So I'm assuming that if you had a really good gluten-free mix, that you could probably just substitute it right in to this pie recipe, because supposedly it's 1 for 1. Now, I've added in the sugar, and I'm just giving it a really good mix because I want that flour and the sugar to blend well. And you know, flour can be a little clumpy, but the sugar will help that. And I'm doing that before I add anything liquid. Now, you'll see my stick of butter, you'll see 3 eggs. We also have a cup of buttermilk that's going to go into this, as well as some lemon juice. Now, the lemon juice, you can use fresh squeezed lemon juice, or you can also use that you get in the refrigerator section of squeezed fresh lemon juice. So I'm going to add in my 3 eggs, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to place them into this bowl. I'm going to give them a good whip and then add them into the pie. So there's our first one, and I'm adding them one at a time just because I want them to be whipped up very well. So I'm looking for my fork. I know I had one out, but let's get another one. So there we go. So you'll see I'm just kind of beating it up a little bit so that it's well incorporated before I put it into the pie mix. Because once it goes into that bowl, and since we're doing it all by hand and not using a mixer, we want to make sure that everything is well mixed because we want this pie to be perfect. So there we go, we're at egg 2 and giving it a little whip. Now, are you a pie family or a cake family? Or do you like a little bit of both? My daughter's family has a lot of cakes, and that's because she loves to bake cakes. Now, I have to wonder, where did she get that from? Because cakes were not one of those things that I did a lot of. I did more brownies and cookies. I love making cookies, and I did that all the time. And to be honest with you, other than pound cakes, that was typically as far as the cake went, unless I did a pineapple upside down cake. But she loves cakes that are decorated, and she can do it so well. And my daughter-in-law is a cake decorator, and oh my goodness, the things they create are just phenomenal. And I'm so impressed with it. But I am a down-home girl. That is just not my thing. I haven't gotten into it. That's not to say that somewhere down the line that might strike me as something that I need to learn how to do. Because, occasionally, as years go by and time goes by and life changes, you'll decide, I need to do something a little different. Now, what I'm about to do is that I need this butter melted. I had softened it, but it does need to be melted because initially I thought, well, I'll use the blender. And had I used the blender, it would have worked well. But since I'm going to do it all by hand, I better put it in the microwave and just melt it. So I'm going to put it on for 1 minute and let that melt. And while that's happening, I'm just giving it a good whisk because I want it to be nice and well mixed and fluffy. And we're going to add in some vanilla, and there goes our wrappers. Now, sometimes I keep my wrappers so I can use them to grease my pie plates or cake pans, whatever it may be, but I didn't do that this time. I went ahead and threw it away. Now here's our melted butter, and I'm going to go ahead and add in the buttermilk. That's 1 cup of buttermilk. So I'm just whisking as we go and adding a little bit at a time. Now that's really to save me because I could have just added it all, but man, the job would have been so much harder when you just kind of do it slowly and put in a little bit at a time. Then you don't have to work quite as hard. Now I have the butter sitting off to the side, and typically I would have already added it. But you know what? The butter was, I don't know what was going on with my microwave, but the butter was so hot. I'm not sure if it was the butter or the bowl, but I am trying my best to get it cooled off as much as I can. So I'm thinking, okay, this is really, really hot and too hot for the batter, because what would happen is that it would curdle the eggs, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm taking my metal knife thinking, well, that's a little cool. Let me put that in there and let the heat exchange take place. But you know what? It still wasn't enough. It was still hot. So I thought, well, let's see, what else can I do? So I thought, well, let me try adding it in a stream while I stir. And I'll just add little bits of butter in at a time. So that's what I'm doing. I am adding in streams of butter. Now I would have picked it up and did the same thing, but you know what? That bowl was hot. So I chose the wrong bowl, and I obviously had too much heat. So whatever you need to do to melt your butter, do that and put it in a bowl that likes the microwave that you can handle. So I didn't do that today. So I am just trying to get that started, warm up those eggs a little bit, get them tempered, and then we're going to add the rest of the butter in. So I am playing around with that. And I know you're thinking, oh my goodness, just pour it in, just pick it up and drizzle it in. Yeah, I could have done that, but then we wouldn't get to talk. Now, what are you doing for fall? What are you doing special? You know, we're supposed to be being careful with because of COVID and trying to limit our travel and where we're going. And of course, we're wearing masks, and those that work outside of the home are taking care of that, and those that work within the home are also taking care of that, as well as our kiddos. Man, they're all over the place. Some are having school at home virtually, and some are having school at school, which for me, in my mind, that's a little scary. But you know, I have seen what COVID can do, and for some people, they've been able to bounce back with COVID with very few side effects. I have some friends who have had COVID who have had serious side effects that caused illnesses that they never had. And then I've had those also who did not make it. And so when you look at the variation in how COVID responds within the body, it makes you very cautious. So all I can say to you is be careful and keep your family safe, because it strikes all ages and you have absolutely no idea how your body's going to respond or what it's going to do to your body. So, okay, I broke down. Let's get this butter and the lemon juice into the pan. So you'll see I'm just drizzling it in. But if you look closely, you can also see that it's still a little warm, but it did not curdle the eggs, so that's a good thing. I guess I had put enough in that the eggs were tempered and everything was good. So you're going to see that it's going to start thicken up just a little bit and come together. Now I already have the pie crust in the pan, and I'm using my favorite pie dish, which is a Louisville stoneware pie plate. And if you're not familiar with Louisville, I am a Louisville girl, born and raised, and both of us are, both the big guy and myself. And you know, our hearts have been a little heavy with Louisville. We've been in the news a lot. But we are going to use that stoneware dish today. And I just have to keep people and things and situations in prayer, because, you know, I can't worry about it. I can't allow that to be a worry to me. Now, what I did was that I used a crust that was, this pie plate is a little bit smaller than your regular anchor hocking pie plate that you might have. So what I did, rather than to get rid of the crust, I just folded it over, and I just kind of flipped it over. I greased the bottom of the pan, and I'm going to poke holes in the bottom of my dough so that air can escape. I did not pre-bake it. I guess I could have, but I didn't do that this time, and to be honest with you, it came out just fine. Now, I decided I wanted just a smidget of cinnamon. So you'll see I just sprinkled in just almost a pinch of cinnamon. And that's just to add that fragrance of fall into this pie. And it wasn't a heavy, you know, it's not a heavy cinnamony type of fragrance, but I did want it in there. And it turned out great. It smelled wonderful, and it tastes even better. So let's get this into this pie plate. Now my oven is heating at 350, and I'm going to cook it for about 45 minutes. Now let me say this to you. Everyone's oven is different. So I'm going to start checking. Even my oven that I'm familiar with sometimes does crazy things. So I'm going to start checking at about 30 minutes to see if it's still jiggling. If it's still jiggling, it's not ready. So you're going to put it on that 350, you're going to look at it at 30 minutes, and then every 5 minutes after that until there is no jiggle. And when there's no jiggle, you know your pie is ready to come out. And it's going to be golden brown. And it's going to be beautiful. Now, I am taking a piece of foil and putting it over this pan so that I can sit the pie plate in it just in case. Because, you know, had I not done that, we would have had an accident. It would have been all over the stove. And even though a new stove is coming to the house of Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme, I do not want to clean the oven. So we're putting the pie plate very gently into this stoneware dish, and we're going to get it into that oven once it's preheated. And since it is, it's the ring has already rung, and the oven is ready. So I'm going to place this very carefully into my hot oven and let it bake. Now you're going to put it in the middle of your oven, in the center. And if you want to, after about 20 minutes, you can open it up and gently turn it to the other, you know, in the other direction, front to back, back to front. And you can do that. But to be honest with you, I didn't do that. I just let her bake. And it came out perfectly. So let's get this in. And it's heavy. The stoneware dish is heavy. I have had this for 46 years, guys. That's how long this stoneware dish has been around, and how long Louisville stoneware has been around. So, enjoy. Multitasking in the kitchen is always necessary. And so while the pie was cooking in the oven, I put together some hamburgers, and these are delicious. I actually mixed them with cheddar cheese, and it's a chipotle cheddar cheese. And so I'm just putting them on the buns, and I'm using ranch dressing on the buns instead of mayo or salad dressing, with some lettuce and tomatoes and some onions. And I've added the chipotle cheddar to the tops of them to finish them off. And that's what we're going to have for dinner. And so I thought, well, you know, I could have had something a little heavier, fries and all those kind of things. But because I knew we were going to have the buttermilk pie for dessert, I thought I'd keep it a little light. Now, obviously, not necessarily that light in calories, but I didn't want to overeat either. So, our hamburgers are ready. I'm going to serve this up to the big guy. He's going to be able to eat and be happy. We typically have a fairly nice lunch at about between, I guess, 1:30, 2 o'clock. And then we'll have dinner at 5:30, between 5:30 and 6. So there's our hamburgers, and you know, they weren't really the feature, but good old Kraft classic ranch. And so I guess we could call these Chipotle ranch burgers tonight for dinner. This baby is out of the oven, and oh my goodness, it smells wonderful and looks divine. But you know what? It's too hot to cut yet. So let's wait. Well, now I can handle it and actually pick it up. It's beautiful and it's nice and cool. So I need, let's say, forks, some plates, and something to cut it with. I can't get it fast enough. I know the big guy is absolutely going to love it. I can hear him now. Okay, let's get that first slice. You know, I started out, I was just going to cut one or two out, but I thought, well, why not cut the whole thing? Then that way, they're easy to come to and easy to get out for dinner or for any other time that we just might want to slice. So let's get that first one out. Oh, yum. There's the first one. That came out pretty good. And there's the second. Now let's see. Let's take a look. You know, if I had a glass of milk with this, that would be perfect. But I don't. So, got forks. And let's see what else we can do. You know, guys, I have to tell you, I am a sugar girl. I love desserts, and especially pies. And to be honest with you, as much as I love pies, I don't bake pies as often as I'd like to. And it's mainly because of the fact that there's only the two of us most of the time here. And our family really likes more cakes than pies. But I grew up with pies. My mom was an excellent pie baker. And she baked pies for the church. She baked pies for people who wanted them. And it was all about pies at our house and not so much about the cakes. Now, I am so glad that you chose to come and to be a part of the family tonight. And I hope that your buttermilk pie is going to absolutely send your family crazy, because they're going to want you to make it over and over again. And if you make it for the holiday, you better bring two, because that first one is going to end up staying mostly at home because everybody's going to want to taste it. And I'm telling you this because that's what happens in my house. I have to make 2 or 3 or 4, and then I take the others, but one always has to stay at home for the big guy. So come back to the house of Ebony, Ivy, and Time, where we work hard, we love God and family, and we know without a doubt that everything else is just gravy. I pray blessings over you and your family, and I'll see you soon, right here